covered up.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rise Up with Ivy and Calla,
where spirituality meets practicality. And good morning, I'm Ivy.
And I'm Calla.
And look, I know it's hard to tell the difference between the two of us.
We're twinning today, for those who know.
So not planned.
It's absolutely not.
The only difference is she has happy hair today, and
yes,
I'm covered up.
I got my hair.
Well, good morning. What a great week.
Okay, before we start, now I told her last week that I was going to sing to her. I'm not going to sing.
Man, I was looking forward to
singing
on camera.
No, I don't want me to sing. But today, Ivy is celebrating a birthday milestone.
It is. It's a big birthday milestone.
Yes. Well, do you want to just disclose?
Oh. And I think I want to say thank you. And I'm so blessed to be celebrating my 50th birthday. I'm going to cry. But I've been kind of in this weird space about it. I'm so excited because I feel wonderful. I love the sass that I have. I love the path that I'm on.
Uh-huh.
But we've put these negative connotations on numbers. So once I start to think I'm 50, I kind of, and then I'm like, why am I worried about that?
You're awesome. You're healthy. You're beautiful. You're glowing.
And I think that's why this conversation is so important that we're going to have today, because I looked at my dad and my dad said, remember, age is just a number. I'm like, you know what? You're right, Dad. We're the ones that put time on stuff.
Right.
I could be 3 years old for all I know. Right? Or, it's all in the way you do it. But how do you not let those certain numbers or those certain stereotypes
define
who you are?
It's title. You have to have a purpose. You have to have a reason. You have to be in a box.
Right. And, I was looking. This is going to sound weird. You'll be happy with that. Okay. I was looking at myself in the mirror the other day.
Doesn't sound weird.
Naked. But anyways, it was looking, and I can see the aging, or I feel the aging, right? I'm not the cute 22-year-olds that everything, but my body is filled with stories between children and things of that nature, so those marks are, I don't want to say my scars, because to me, again, scar is a negative connotation,
right? But
what word would you use? They're my medals.
There you go.
They're my medals of honor.
Medal of honors.
Right? But it's still, when that ego part is here, that's like, I don't look like that. Sai gave me this really cute compliment last night. Like, we were out in our building just kind of hanging out, and I went outside to do something. He was like, you look like a 25-year-old from the side profile. And I was like, why, thank you, honey. And then I was like, why would that make me feel good about myself? I love 25-year-olds. I think, our kids are in that age group. But I don't want to be that person because I am 50 and I have that wisdom. So how do we get through that?
It's tough. It's definitely tough. Again, you have to block out what other people are saying,
or our thought processes, because think about it, when we were little, okay, I remember being a kid riding with my parents, and there would be this old person driving a Corvette or a Trans Am, whatever the cool cars were at the time. And I remember even looking, going, they're old. You know what I mean? Why is that old person driving that car? No, it's because that's when you can actually somewhat afford a car like that. It has nothing to do with age. But even the thought process of age-wise, because when we're younger, our perception of what is older is
absolutely. And I love my girls, but one of my daughters, she made the comment the other day that 50 is old. and it wasn't implying about you.
Well, which daughter are we talking about? I have a feeling I know which daughter this is.
She was using, to her, that 50 is an old woman to her. And I had to give her a little bit of perspective. I said, well, Nana's in her 70s, darling. Really? But she's still walking around and moving, so perception.
But then again, I think we go through this aha moment, not as much as when we're younger, because in 20s and 30s, you still feel like you got the world at the tip of your fingers. You know what I mean? But I look and say, wow, I'm only 20 plus years difference between me and my parents. And then all of a sudden that mortality comes in. And it's a little confusing and a little scary. Now, it doesn't help that my dad was like, oh, sis, are you going to be looking? Because I was telling him I'm looking for some side work as well. He's like, remember, after 50, nobody wants to hire you. I'm like, holy crap. So
you could qualify for AARP now, can't you? Okay. Sorry. Sore subject. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love you. No, these are those moments that I'm talking about. It's embracing you. How do you and I think this starts a really cool week. And so I'm grateful that my birthday is the catalyst to this. But I want to have some of these hard conversations. I know you and I have talked a lot about our podcast and our video cast, or our show. And we want to have some of the hard conversations. Of course, to look back to be like, oh, when I was 20 plus years old, this was what I had. But I will tell you this, even one of our sons recently said to us, who's in his 20s, said, I thought this was supposed to be when you had the time of your life. And I was like,
yep.
Yeah, you don't know that until you're in your 30s.
Yeah.
And then when you hit 40, you start to look at the 30s and like, those were the days.
Yes.
Honestly, today, I don't feel any different than I did yesterday. I feel just as sassy and just as fun. But so far, as of the few hours, because at 8:59 is when I was born. So I'm really almost 50. But I haven't so far looked and said, hey, the 40s were the time. But I love my 40s. I felt like there was more growth, like intentional growth in my 40s than I had in either of the years. Yes. The 20s, there was just the aha growth. Oh, oops, I did this. The 30s, I was kind of more focused on career and family, like what you're supposed to do. My 40s, my boys were older. Our business was going, that was more of my path of kind of finding out who Ivy is. And
that was in the 40s was when our boys are the same age. And so that was the time where I had to reevaluate, look at me and figure out what makes me click.
And I'm going to tell you, so far, as the one day in my 50s, but I've been, preparing for this because I'd been saying I'm going to go into it like a ball of fire, being like, woohoo, and I have, but for me, I think this year is all about really not giving a flip, in case there's kids listening, and doing the things that I find passion for, not conforming. 30s, we conform. It's like one of the positions I was looking at is going to be very tightened up and buttoned up. And I'm like, I have my tattoos and I have this, and I don't want to be tightened up anymore. I want to finally free myself from those places that I have held myself in bondage.
Well, you mentioned a later age group. I thought we started conforming from the youth.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. But this is where I want to stop. I think in my 40s, I was starting to really understand that, hence Old Magic Ways and our path together. But in the 50s, but I still find that even though outwardly to other people I might not have conformed, inside in my home life and what is expected, I still had that conforming aspect.
Yeah.
Now, as my children are older, we're here once, y'all. Well, multiple times, but in this body, one time. Why not? If I want to go surfing, which I've done before and I don't want to surf again, I'll stick to my paddleboard. Why not use this time?
With my girls growing up, there's certain conforming rules that I have instilled in their head, being women, being Black women, as they're trying to like go into their careers now. One of the things is no face piercings. Don't get a face piercing until you have your career established. That is instilled in all of their heads.
So I have tattoos on my forearms. My husband as well, he does, but we didn't do those till after our career was over. So now I'm even looking as I'm picking up some side things to do. What is it? I'm not conforming anymore.
Right.
I'm tired. Now, I completely agree. Rules have to be in place for certain things. There's rules at jobs. There's rules in general. But what I'm talking about with conforming is changing who I am to please the powers that be for whatever the situation is. And that's a scary place. I feel like I'm almost jumping off a ledge again.
Especially do you recommend people younger than you do that?
It's tough. It is tough.
It is tough.
I see the advice I'm giving to my children is advice that in the real world, in the working world, in the muggle world, whatever you want to call it, to be advice, you still have to follow that. What I would tell people is, remember, other people's aspirations for you are not your reality. I remember when my oldest son came home. So he had come out to us with his last quarter in high school. And we're like, okay, whatever, just make yourself happy. Define yourself by your heart, not by your sexuality. And I have plenty of friends that are in the LGBTQ community. And so it wasn't a big deal until it was.
Right.
And when that summer, when he went off to college, I couldn't quite figure out what was bothering me. As I'm sure if my mom's watching now, and any parent can relate, especially moms. He came home from college and he said, "Mom, can I have a reading?" My aha moment. And I said, yes. The moment he was born, I held him in my arms. And I imagined what his life was going to be like. He was going to do this, and he was going to do this, and he was going to do this, and then college and meet his girlfriend and get engaged and then have children. And I was like, holy crap. I planned his whole life in my head.
Right.
So when I did his reading, I said, okay, this is Ivy. Now it's Mom's turn. And I said, Tyler, I have a gift for you. I release you from all aspirations that I set forth for you the day you were born, except for one. He said, what's that? I said, that you find your true path and happiness. And he said, whoa. He said, Mom, that's a lot. I said, yeah, it is. Because, I think we all have these. And I had a conversation with one of your girls recently. She said, I think my mom thinks I'm this. Well, ask her.
Right.
Because you're responding to the way you think she thinks of you.
Ask her.
Yes, ask her. But I think, so we tend to respond to those things in the way we believe that people see us as, which is not the truth.
Right.
What we're actually doing is seeing ourselves in the way we see ourselves as. And we're projecting that onto that person. And so I think it's really important that, And I will tell you this. I've told our second son who graduated college, again, I release you from all aspirations I set forth for you. Now, the two younger ones, they're in our house. There are rules here.
Right.
I don't want to get them to get it confused with aspirations versus what your rules are at home. And I think in high school, we both know there are aspirations for them.
Right.
They don't have that moment. This is that molding. What we have to do is bring in that piece where they learn how to be themselves at the same point.
That's being themselves. That's important.
And it's so
hard. And I'm learning. I'm still in the process of learning how to be myself and still trying to instill that in them.
And balance the fine line of being what people need you to be at the same time.
Right.
And it's, I look, one of our younger boys, it was like, he's a junior, and he's like, I don't know even what I want to be when I grow up. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. I'm 40-something years old, and I still don't.
I'm on my fourth or fifth reinvention of myself. Look at what interests you at this moment.
Right.
Because even if it interests you if you go to college, if you don't go to college, if you go in the military, if you go into trade school, if you don't know until you try it.
Right.
I can remember thinking I was going to be a distributive education teacher, just like that was for DECA and the stuff.
Okay.
I had a teacher who was very influential on me, and that was Mr. Gankars. And I wanted to be a teacher like him. And I went to college and I was like, no, I'm not meant to be a teacher. Now, I am meant to be a teacher, as I do teach now.
Right.
That way.
Right.
I was trying to emulate a person that I respected and admired instead of, again, finding out who I was. So this week, we're going to be talking a lot about that.
It's important for us to back up a moment. So I read a post online, and it was a woman. She was in her 30s. She says she feels stuck. She feels stuck because her life she was told to believe in XYZ, and now as she's grown up, as she's gotten her own thoughts, it's like, now what do I do? Because I don't really feel like XYZ, but I don't know what to do next.
Right.
I don't know how to go about finding what makes me click.
That was a hard thing for me too, because I will say I am not religious, I'm spiritual. As I've said, I follow Ivy, a little Hindu, a little Christian, a little Buddhist, but I'm a lot of it spiritual. And I had a lot of guilt because I was raised Christian. If I'm this
Catholic.
Well, a little confusion. I was baptized Catholic, raised Presbyterian Methodist. When I was married to my ex-husband, I went to a Baptist church, then a non-denominational church, and then an Episcopal church. So I've run the gamut.
Right.
I was always searching for something, but that something wasn't there. Like the connections to the people were there, but I didn't have a relationship with divine. I would listen to the sermons, say the prayers that we were told to say, but I never had a conversation with God or goddess or divine or whatever, and just listen. I say Our Fathers, my Hail Marys, but I never just said, hey, I'm Ivy.
Right.
I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me? I even caught myself doing that again last night, starting again, saying, hi, I know that I have this big path in front of me. I know that I'm meant to affect change. I wish I could see what is coming and what is frivolous ideas. I need guidance. And that I caught myself doing that last night, and that was the first time in a really long time that I caught myself saying those kind of words, because it is a turning point for me. Whether I want to realize it or not, 50 for the women, we're going into the crone side, where this is where our wisdom comes in. And other countries, that's looked as a marvelous thing. This is where there are parties and there are celebrations. In America, it's, you're over the hill. I'll trade you in for 2 25-year-olds.
You could get an ARP.
Thank you. Again, I love you more than you know. But it's, it is a hard place. So when I started going through my my awakening, that I recognized, I had to go to my roots. I wanted to know where my family came from, what they went through, the gods and goddesses that were there at the time. Do you know what I mean? To learn. And then I just kind of followed. You have to be open to the signs. I'm just as ADD as it goes. So I've got 4 books going. I'm working with this deity and this deity. But what I have realized, it was during 2020, if you remember, during the pandemic, when Mother Mary came back to me. And I started reflecting back, and it was from childhood, my grandparents having the Mary and a half shell out in their backyard. And then would say my Hail Marys. There was a very strong pull. And now, do I look at her as the mother of Jesus? Of course I do. But I also look at it as she took that as an undertaking that she chose to say yes to.
Right.
Which we leave out quite a bit. That she agreed to do this, which is just as important and just as spectacular. And so for me, part of mine was to find the feminine side in me, because I had kind of pushed that away for so long. And I brought that back in, and it started with Morrigan and Freya and Morgan Le Fay and Bridget. And I'm looking through all my statuaries and Diana and Yemia. And I really started to learn about the divine feminine and the goddess side. As I did that, you were witness to it, I would be working on those pieces of myself. So like Freya was about being bold and taking chances. I did. Mother Mary's unconditional love. That's who I became, or what my goal to emulate was. So to that person who is in her 30s and feels stuck, remember, she's not stuck. She reached out, which tells me there's movement.
She reached out, and where I read it at, she reached out to people who can give their insight,
right,
and to help, not necessarily guide her, but give her ideals.
Yep. And remember, think of yourself in a castle. 3 doors on this side, 3 doors on this side. Whatever door you go through is where you're meant to go.
Right.
It's going to come out the way it needs to. But the lady who feels like she is stuck, she is so not stuck. The people to me that are stuck are the ones that, again, like we talked about last week, kind of life through this and don't see all of the beauty. She sees the beauty. Mm-hmm. She knows there's more. So she's not stuck. She's just on her path.
And I think that I like how you just put that, because I am the closest to God in my spirituality that I have been in my entire life, going to church 3 to 4 times a week.
Yep.
I was brought up Christian, Church of God, Pentecostal, and my relationship, it was within the church. It was systematic.
Right.
I did it because that's what they told me in the church.
Yep.
There wasn't a why behind it. I just did it because that's what everybody else was doing.
And you can't ask why.
Oh my! But I tried.
Right? You can ask because then you're going to get the answers.
I tried, and I had so many questions, and I wasn't getting the answers that I was looking for. And now, as an adult, as an older, almost crone,
I can't wait for that.
I'm able to source out more answers. I have more of an open mind. That is the main thing. Yes, I'm a Christian, but I have an open mind.
And And I think that's the interesting thing is people will talk about Christ-like consciousness or the Christ consciousness. And I kind of put that into that love, kind of like the love thy neighbor, loving people and giving that humanity and showing humanity love and kindness, even in those darkest of nights. But I, like you, am very much closer to divine than I have been in my entire life. I have conversations multiple times a day.
And it's growing and it's changing.
Yes, as we are. And I think that all of our culmination from youth, even the fact of being confined or conditioned has led us to the moments where we can see through that.
Right.
Without those, we wouldn't be where we're at right now. So this week, we're going to talk more and more these hard conversations on finding your path. Again, this just comes from our perspectives.
2 perspectives.
Things we have learned throughout to help you come up with your own. We're not bashing any religion, any tradition. It's really about accepting all and loving the life you live.
Yeah. And I love my household because there are just so many different ways of life, beliefs, paths. Each person, each child, well, they're not children anymore, but each person in my house are on totally different paths. And I love the openness. We all have that open mind.
I love that as well, because I can see that in your family. But take a look. One of the things I want you to look at are the people in your life. And I'm saying this to everybody out there. I say that Cy and I are on 2 very different paths. We just chose to walk them together. You and I are on 2 different paths. We choose to walk them together.
Right.
We made those choices. That's where enlightenment comes in. How can you speak someone's language if you don't know how to talk, or if you don't know their language? And sometimes it's not personally, it's walking with someone else who knows that to get it to connect. So this week, that's what our conversation is going to be.
Yay.
Please send us questions, things you'd like to have answered. You can inbox us if you don't want to do it right here for the world to see. We want to address some of those.
Back tomorrow at 9 a.m., Wednesday, 9 a.m., and Thursday.
And thank you so much for the birthday love. You have no idea how much it warms my heart.
Many, many, many blessings to you all. Thank you for joining us here. Bye-bye.
Bye.